Hello, everyone, and welcome to another Stress Less, Accomplish More call. My name is Stephanie Matos. I'm a mindset coach here on the Brightly Thrive team, and this call is all about helping you stress less and accomplish more. We just hit the nail right on the head with the name of this call. And the main reason why we want to do this is because stress really is something that most people on the planet are struggling with. I mean, in this day and age, even just this thing right here can cause a tremendous amount of stress. This little thing that we carry in our hands all the time, so really we have this call just to help kind of learn some different strategies and techniques, learn a little bit about the mind. I personally had a pretty significant transformation in my own life just simply by learning about mindset and what mindset is and how we can utilize the power of the mind to help us calm our nervous systems down and really achieve more in our lives. It's kind of interesting how, and this kind of actually brings me to our topic today. It's very interesting how our mind can play tricks on us and our mind can actually lie to us a lot. And a couple weeks ago, well, it's the 17th now. So on the first, it was obviously April Fool's Day, and we talked a little bit about how April Fool's Day, if you're watching this video and you don't have this in your country or anything like that, just in case. I know everybody in the US knows what it is, but basically it's a holiday where people play pranks on people and tell fibs about things and try to kind of surprise people with things that are not the truth. Okay. So a lot of fooling people going on April Fool's Day, right? And so that really got me thinking about how much we do this in our own lives. And I know some of this we've talked about before, but there are a couple things that I would love to chat about today and just see if any of this is something that resonates with you. And Randy, you can let me know if you've heard any of this because I cannot remember which call you did. You attend the call where we talked about this stuff?
I don't recall that.
Okay, so that's a
So
good thing. That's a good thing. Okay. So what we'll do is we will cover some of these things because there are a few things that I've talked about already. However, there's quite a bit that I never got a chance to talk about. And kind of like circling back to this idea of stress. What we know about stress from a science-based perspective or a health-based perspective is that it really can be extremely detrimental to people's health. I mean, it can cause an array of conditions that are physiological, real conditions, and then it can also cause an array of psychological conditions that manifest physiologically. There was actually somebody on the call last, I guess it was Monday, when I hosted a call, and they were talking about how when they were in getting their degree, they had phantom pains that were all stress related and stress induced. And so pains are sort of like the tip of the iceberg as far as what can happen from a psychosomatic. Um, you know, not all things that stress does in the body are psychosomatic. By the way, some of them literally are killers in the body. However, there are a lot of things that also come into play where it's like it's not even real, but it feels real. Okay. And I have a friend who, a few years ago ended up in the ER thinking that he was having a heart attack, and really he was having a panic attack. And he was having all the chest pains. He had the pain in the arm. He had all of the symptoms of a heart attack, but they were able to figure out pretty quickly that he was completely fine. It was all coming from here and from stress, right? And so that's actually, I hadn't even planned on talking about that, but in the same, genre of how our body and our mind can really play tricks on us sometimes. It's interesting how we've talked a little bit about this again in the past. So if I ever repeat something, so first of all, I think some of this bears repeating. Like I think the more we hear it, the more it starts to ingrain into our brain, and we start to learn it. We really learn by repetition. You guys are all in the education field, so you know good and well that repetition is one of the ways that we start to actually learn these things. However, if there's something that you've heard before, you can tell me, oh, you talked about that already, and I will not be offended. However, there are a lot of really interesting studies on placebo effects, right? And what they were able to determine is that people who have a more negative mindset or a more pessimistic mindset have more symptoms from the fake pill or the sugar pill than people who are optimistic. Okay, so basically, in one study, they had optimists in a group and pessimists in a group, and they told them both the same thing. They were like, "Listen, you're going to take these pills. You don't know if it's the real one or the fake one, but you will probably know if it's the real one because you might have headaches, nausea, you won't be able to sleep, you'll be sweating, like all of these pains, problems, and symptoms." And but nobody got a real pill. There was no real pill. They were all fake pills. And so what they found was that the optimists, or the people who were more happy and more positive and more optimistic in their demeanor and in their thoughts, had less symptoms or had no symptoms compared to the pessimistic group. And then the pessimistic group, the symptoms ranged all the way to, do I have a headache? I think I might have a headache. I have a headache. Did I take that pill? To full blown throwing up, sweating, not sleeping, all of this kind of stuff. So everything that they had heard happened in their body, right? Yet none of it was actually real. And so I think this is something that when it comes to stress, it's just something for us to think about, because I think there's sometimes when we actually stress about being stressed, where it's like, here we go again. Oh no, it's another day, another this. And it's like, here I go again. I'm stressing about this. And now I'm stressing on upon stressing. So it's kind of like, I call it compounded emotions, where it's like, I'm annoyed or frustrated, and then I'm stressed about the thing, and then I'm stressed about that. And then, oh no, that probably means that everything else is going to go bad. And oh no, 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 right. That like stacks on top of each other, which just builds all of the not negative, not so great feelings inside of our bodies, right? And so I think that it's important for us to understand that some of this is actually created in our mind through our thoughts, right? So our belief systems, our thoughts, all of that kind of stuff. And some of it is created through the physiology of the body, where it's like the actual hormones and peptides and all of the stuff that gets elicited as a result of the thoughts and beliefs. So generally speaking, it starts with a thought and then you feel it in your body. I got scared by something the other day and I thought, "Oh, that's so interesting." It felt like pins and needles in my body. Like I heard a noise or something in the middle of the night, and oh, an alarm went off accidentally. Oh, we have somebody joining us. Cool. Some kind of an alarm went off and it startled me, and my whole body went tingling. Like it was like I had this shock through my body of fear, right? So that's actually a physiological welcome to the call, Bernie. It's nice to see you. Nice to have you here. If you have any questions or want to share anything in the chat, please feel free. But if you have anything specific that you'd like to learn about, talk about, chat about, or discuss, you're more than welcome to put that in the chat. And thanks so much for joining me and Randy today. All right, so what is so interesting about that is that it started with a thought. So first it started with an auditory thing that I heard, which went in my ear, which went into my brain, which caused a thought of, oh my goodness, am I safe? I don't think I'm safe. And then a whole physiological feeling in the body, right? So it's kind of like this whole circuit of things that's happening when we feel stress or fear or anxiety or overwhelm or happiness or whatever it is. It just so happens, you guys, that happiness doesn't have the same charge as fear does or as negative emotions do. So if you look at brain scans or imaging, if somebody's happy, it will light up in the brain. So there are different things that light up in the brain, but if they're afraid, it's like everything's like like all the things are lighting up, right? And it's because some of this is obviously survival based. So when you're happy, that's great. And we're supposed to be happy and all of that kind of stuff. However, if something could be affecting your ability to survive, that is actually more important from a survival based approach, right? And so there's a reason why this happens. However, what happens now is that we've anchored that negative feeling to things like email or things like meetings or things like, if they're like, hey Randy, we want you to do a PowerPoint presentation, stand up in front of the whole team and teach everybody this or that, and you're like, whoa, I wasn't expecting that, or whatever it is. Or somebody goes, what do you think about something? And you're like, oh no, I don't know what I think, I've gone blank. So it's interesting that these survival based mechanisms, because we no longer live in that we don't live in a world where we have to worry so much about lions and tigers and bears, depending on where you live, right? It's and even where you live, even if you lived in a more remote location, we still have a ton more accessibility to safety mechanisms and protocols than we ever would have when you were living like in a tent or something, you know? So, but our body doesn't know the difference between real and fake. Our body doesn't know the difference between a lie or the truth sometimes. Just like that alarm went off and I was completely safe, but I felt like I was in danger. I was in major danger. And so luckily I'm here today. Everything was fine and it totally was fine. But that is something that we have to be aware of because our brain can actually create things. And you know what? I didn't even read the I just got right into it and I didn't even read your win. So Randy had a win that he's going on vacation next week. Yay! We love that. And Randy's saying, I actually love that. Which part do you love? The fear? Like
If I
the
get asked to do a impromptu presentation,
ah
yeah.
yes. Okay. So this is an awesome thank you, Benny. So this is an awesome thing to talk about, right? Because for most people, well, a large population of people, presenting or being on stage is one of the biggest fears that people have. Benny, I don't know if you can chime in and say if somebody were to be like, hey, teach everybody everything, because clearly I do this for a living, and so I'm okay with it as well. However, there was a time when I was not. There was a time when I was absolutely petrified to be in front of people, to be on camera, to be on stage. I'll never forget like public speaking, even in college. I was, oh my gosh, I remember I couldn't sleep that night and all of this kind of stuff because I was just so scared to be in front of people. And the ability to speak the way that I speak now and be, in front of people and on stage and things like that, I had to actually hone that skill. But what's so interesting is that there's a lot of people who have a belief that they are stuck in one way or the other. So, for example, like, would you say, like Randy, just out of curiosity, have you always been like that, or did you, or are you kind of like me, where you used to be scared and now you're not anymore?
I think for that particular thing, I've always been good with it.
Got it. Okay. So you can see how if I would have met Randy when I was completely petrified, okay? And Randy's like, "It's cool. It's not that big of a deal. I actually think it's fun. I actually love it. I actually could do this all day." And I'm like, I do not get that. I do not understand that. We are not the same, right? What can happen is that we can create these identities about ourselves. And this is exactly what I did. So I had an experience where I did really, really badly in a presentation in front of a lot of people. It was like 400 people and I bombed. It was bad. And I made that mean that forever and ever and ever, I wasn't good at that. Right? And I think it's important for us to be very flexible with the way that the belief systems that we have about ourselves. So what Benny said here is it depends on the subject material. Public speaking in general isn't too daunting after starting. Love it. Yeah. And I would say that you guys are not the norm when it comes to this. You guys you guys might know people who are like, "Oh no." There are quite a lot of people who are very scared to speak publicly. I know a lot of my friends are like this and think that I'm crazy to do the job that I do. And so, however, what I would say is that if there's anywhere else, because in this particular area, it's fine and there's no big deal. But if there's anywhere else where we might make some some really like almost concrete decisions about ourselves or concrete belief systems about ourselves. So for example, this is a stress less call, right? And I already shared with you guys how I used to think that I was horrible on camera, horrible on stage, that I really was meant to be behind the scenes and not ever show my face. Okay, this is really what I believed, and it was from one experience that I had that was really really bad. And what is interesting about this is that I made that mean all kinds of things. I can't handle things. I get overwhelmed easily. I stress out too much. I'm just an anxious person, blah, 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 blah. But the more that I claimed that as characteristics of myself or, personality traits or something about myself, the more I bought into that and the more that they became habits. because really that's all that it is a habit. I had a bad habit of thinking negatively about myself. I had a bad habit of stressing about stress, how we were just talking about, like, it stacks on top of each other, stressing about things and all of that kind of stuff. And so what would be cool is if there's any areas of your life where maybe you're like, what if I could be different here? What if this isn't who I am? What if it's this just something that I started to do and I started to do it so much that I accidentally created a habit out of it? Randy says here, what is funny is that I can't talk to people in a social setting very easily. That's interesting, right? So the friends that I was just talking about that are petrified to be on stage, they are super good at that. Like really, really, really good at social situations and being at parties and throwing parties and all of this kind of stuff. And one of my friends in particular, she was just talking about how she was on stage. Her company had asked her to speak, and she said that her voice was just quivering because she said it, she was like, oh, like that. And she said it was so embarrassing and all of this kind of stuff. But this girl is like the social butterfly, right? So you can see how these things show up in so many different areas and aspects of our life. And it could even be that it's like, huh, if I can do this, I can do that too, right? And maybe that's something you can play around with if you want. I mean, it's no big deal if you don't feel like doing that. But if it's something that you're interested in doing, maybe you can play around with, huh, maybe I can be really good at that. Um, what is also interesting about our brain is that it creates up to 50% of our memories. So, meaning our brain is creative and it's also based on self-preservation. So again, I'll use myself as an example is when I had that experience on stage and I bombed really, really badly, what my brain did was made it so much bigger than it really was. Now, don't get me wrong, it was a pretty big deal. It was a lot of people, but is it like the end all be all for the rest of my life? No. Okay. Like, no. That was like, I don't know, 15 something years ago. It's not even something that I think about now. But at the time, it was like the worst thing that ever could have happened. So then my memories around it were very, very, very big and bold and bright, and probably were enhanced by my body's need or desire to never feel like that again. Okay. Like that was like, I never want to feel like that again. If I could never feel like that again, that would be amazing. Right. But it never dawned on me, oh, you can never feel like that again and do that again. You can never feel like that again and try new things. You can never feel like that again. It wasn't that, it was like, "Oh, you have to hide. You have to keep your mouth zipped and hide," right? So I was actually a ghostwriter for many years, and you can't really hide more than that. You can't really literally, your name's not even on the content you're producing, right? And that's because that's where I felt safest as a result of how my memories remembered me like trying to put myself out there and failing, right? Um, Failure is an interesting thing. So you guys are all in the education space, and there's actually a woman who I got to see her speak at the Harvard Club in New York. I went to an event there, and she is considered the godmother of Silicon Valley. I think that's what they call her. Her name is Irene Wozniak. I'm not. Don't hate me if I said her her name incorrectly. Starts with a W. But one of the things that she was talking about, and she was specifically talking about kids. However, one of the things she said, and I was like, oh my goodness, this would help adults so much, is that so she has the largest percentage of really high level successful kids that graduated from her high school, her school that she had. So they're doctors, lawyers, CEOs of things like Google, CEOs of YouTube, all high level in Silicon Valley, CEOs, CFOs, like all of this kind of stuff. And so they have studied her approach pretty, and now she's written a book and all kinds of stuff. But they studied her approach, and one of the things that she said really stuck with me is that she helped her kids feel better about failure. So she didn't really believe in failure. She believed in trying again and learning again and testing again and trying again. It wasn't like, oh, you messed up, that's it, bye. You made an F, that's it, right? And her rationale was, as an adult, so she writes for Time Magazine and like all of this kind of stuff. And so she's like, never once have I written an article for Time Magazine that the original piece that I wrote went in exactly the way that it was. There was countless revisions. She's like, so how can I not let these kids also revise? Right. So they never had to be afraid of failure because they knew that they could study again and take it again and study again and take it again and learn and learn and learn and learn. Right. And so, and again, this is her system. So I'm not saying this is the right way or anything like that. I think it's more, my point that I'm making is more about our belief systems around failure. It can be really, really challenging to try new things or attempt new things or all kinds of stuff because a lot of us have a very negative anchoring or wiring in our neurology when it comes to failure. And failure also feels really, really bad, which is what I thought I did on stage when really all I did was just learn how not to do it, which was stop thinking so negatively, stop freaking out, stop stressing out, study a little more and be more prepared because I was not fully prepared because I was so scared of it. I didn't really study, right? But I made it mean I was bad. But just kind of circling back to the reason why I brought this up is because the brain actually is very creative in our memories and will do things in our memories and make them seem worse than they even were, especially if they were already pretty bad, as a self-preservation technique so that you never do that thing again. But what that oftentimes does is holds us back from success in many ways and keeps us stuck in stress and overwhelm and all kinds of stuff. Let me just see what's in here. Bernie says, when I look at failure, I think about working out and training by doing your sets to failure. I agree. You can really change the idea of how you view failure. That's really interesting. That's really interesting. So this is another way that you can look at it as failing forward, where it's like I'm going to failure, but I'm getting stronger. I'm getting more toned. So in this instance, failure is great, right? In this training style, and in her teaching methodology, that's kind of what she was saying too, is that failure is okay. It's nothing to be scared of. We don't have to be scared of these things, right? This is completely not at all what I plan to talk about today, but we just see where the conversation goes. And so just kind of circling back, I think it could be fun to just think about, man, what memories or belief systems do I have based on something I experienced that might be anywhere up to 50 plus percent. I think it was like 50 something percent created or embellished as a way to keep me safe. Right now, we're talking about speaking on stages and whatever. That's just the idea. That's just the thought that came up to me. However, this can be anywhere in life, anywhere in life, anywhere in any of the areas of life, whether that's relationships or finances or work or whatever, even hobbies or anything like that. All of these things can come into play. And I think that it's kind of cool to take this approach, just kind of think about it and go, "Huh, very interesting. What am I accidentally creating? What did I accidentally create? And is that creation helpful?" Because it can also go the other way too. I have some friends who so I had a more pessimistic mindset at that time. And so, because I had a pessimistic mindset, obviously the memories that I was forging in my mind happened to be more pessimistic, which were you should hide. Okay. Now, if I would have had a more optimistic viewpoint or optimistic way of thinking, my memory might have been skewed, right? We'll never know because that wasn't me. However, I have a feeling that if I had a more positive viewpoint or mindset at the time, I wouldn't have made it mean like, that's it. So, for example, I had that belief system of hiding for probably 8 to 10 years, maybe 8, something like that. So, a long time of my life until I questioned it and went, "Is this even true? Like, is this even real? Did this really happen this way?" Right? And I was able to then rewire it. And I was able to now this is the part that's a little bit scary, is that what that meant was that I had to face my fear head on, right? Where the only way to is through. So the only way to get to the other side of something is to actually go through it. So that meant there were several occasions where I put myself out there and I was panicking inside, but I was doing it for a very powerful why. So I connected the negative feeling to a very powerful why, which was I was ready to release that. I was ready to move forward. I was ready to do different things in my life. I was ready to help people in a different way. And that feeling of wanting to help people at a high level was the thing that helped me overcome the fear that I was feeling in my body, because a lot of a lot of times when we have something like stress or overwhelm or anxiety, or we're dealing with all kinds of just life things, right? What can happen is that the feeling of discomfort that we feel feels so intense that we just go back to the other way. We just go back to the other way. We just go back to the other way. And so there's this saying of feel the fear and do it anyway. And I understand what that concept means, because I kind of did that myself. However, I think there's a missing piece, and that is, why is it important for you to follow through? Why is it important for you to carry on when you don't want to, and when things are hard and all of that kind of stuff? There has to be a powerful why connected to it. And if you have that powerful why, the how becomes very, very effortless, right? It becomes very easy to start. I say easy in quotes. It's not necessarily easy, but it's worth it. So being able to maintain your dedication to yourself, your dedication to your belief systems, your thoughts, your feelings, emotions, all of that kind of stuff becomes a lot easier when you connect it to a really powerful why. Why is this important? Why is it important for me to release the stress in my life? Why is it important for me to feel less overwhelmed? Why is it important for me to be the type of leader that I would like to be? Why is it important for me to take my power back from this situation or that thought or that experience, right? And then do the thing. So then you might feel the fear, and you might feel the anxiety or whatever it is, but the why carries you through, and the why keeps you showing up. And then after a while, after you do it 2 or 3 or 4 or 10 times, it becomes a lot easier to do these things. So anyways, you guys, our time is up for today. Time flies when you're having fun. Randy and Benny, thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy schedules to join me on this call. I hope I get to see you guys again. I won't see Randy next week. He's on vacation, so I definitely won't be seeing you. Benny, I hope I get to see you again. I'll be back. I think I actually am back again tomorrow. Yeah, so I'll be here tomorrow, but I'll also be back again Monday and Thursday of next week too. All right, you guys, until we meet again, so much love and so many blessings. I hope to see you so soon. Bye, everybody. Bye.